toxic masculinity.
Yeah, Sesame Street to educate children on racial literacy. That's your favorite subject, Chris?
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
Is that how they say it in Russia?
We say Sesame Street.
Oh, Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, it's Sesame Street here.
Sesame.
Sesame. Yeah.
Did I say Sesame?
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
I don't know. Yeah, Sesame Street. Yeah, so Sesame Street apparently wants to add...
Sorry.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? The goatee is like ridiculous. I mean, just come on, guys. Anyway, Sesame Street adds 2 new Muppets to educate children on racial literacy. I'm not really going to read this story because what I basically wanted to do is show you guys the early cast of Sesame Street. This is the cast that I grew up with. Hold on, let me switch it to this one. This is the cast I grew up with looking at
So
Sesame
white.
Street. Well, exactly. That's the thing. There's like one white guy over here. There are various iterations of this. I mean, so we have like what looks like maybe like a black girl or maybe half black, half Latina here. We got like a Mexican guy here. We got 3 black folks. And the Muppets don't have color. I mean, they have color, like blue.
I mean, that one looks like Armenian.
This one looks Armenian. Bert looks Armenian. Valeria, you should know, likes Armenian people, so that's not an insult. But yeah, he kind of does look kind of Armenian. Now let's look at another iteration of the cast. This one's a little bit harder to see, but you see more of the cast here. Looks like I don't know if she's like a light-skinned Hispanic or if she's just white, but this looks like there might be another white person here. You got an Asian little girl. Looks like a Mexican kid. Obviously a lot of black people, a lot of Hispanic people. There's another black woman up here. White people were always, like a minority on Sesame Street from the beginning. Okay, so now this is, I think, an even earlier iteration. I think this is the woman who started Sesame Street. Here's Jim Henson down here. You got these kids, mixed race kids. This girl looks like she might be white. This is another character that looks white. And then this guy he died actually fairly early on in the series. But I think he ran like the newspaper stand. I was like very, very young when he died. But I do remember him. I do remember him from Sesame Street. I mean, I was like a very, very little kid watching Sesame Street. And I remember all these people. I remember all these like black folks and Hispanic folks. And, they don't have everybody here. They don't have Louise here. Maybe he came in a little bit later, but... Yeah, Sesame Street has always been, mostly not white. I mean, mostly a not white cast. But now they're bringing in black Muppets to try to show that black people are good or something. Like, I don't see. Here's the problem that I have with all this diversity crap. It's like if you take a group like Sesame Street that has always been dedicated to being anti-racist, into equality and showing you that different races are good, teaching you a little bit of Spanish, teaching you a little bit about, that black people and white people are basically the same kinds of folks, which I think are all great messages. And then they think, oh, we have to be even more not racist or more anti-racist or whatever. Like, where do you go from there? If you keep pushing, you know where you go? You go into racism again, okay? So, like, racism and anti-racism is like a hill. Right? You got your racism here, you got your anti-racism up here, and then you have more racism down here. And if you go up the hill and you're at the pinnacle, not racist, and you go, we got to go further than that. Where do you go? You go back down into racism. But now you're not maybe racism against that group, you're racist against that group, right? So they're no longer racist against black or Latino people or anything, or Asians or whatever, Muslims. Now they're racist against white people. We're the ethnic minority apparently now in America. We're the hated group, which is not acceptable.
Ethnic majority, I would say.
Well, yeah, technically we're the majority, but we are treated as if we're the minority. We're treated as if we're this like the... What do they call the redheaded stepchild of America? Anyway, but yeah, so I think that Sesame Street is going into dangerous territory here. And here's really the concerning part about that is that I feel like if you have children now, you can't let them watch Sesame Street. It's like it used to be that like there were certain shows that you could just put them in front of the TV, let them watch the show, and there was not going to be anything negative or nasty, or they're going to teach them anything bad, right? Like Mr. Rogers. You stuck a kid in front of the TV, they watched Mr. Rogers, they were going to be fine. You let them watch Sesame Street, they weren't going to get any bad messages. When I was a kid, I actually didn't like Sesame Street because it was it was the 80s, and Sesame Street was kind of 70s looking. It looked like a little dirty. Like everything was like a little grungy and a little like Oscar the Grouch and all that. Like it looked a little bit, it wasn't my style as a kid. Like I liked the
I didn't
cool
watch
new stuff.
Sesame Street when I was a child. I knew about that.
Yeah.
Didn't really watch.
In Russia, they have their own version, I think. It's not the same version as we have in America. Yeah.
But called the same.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's called the same everywhere, kind of. Except for yours is like
Sesame.
Street. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you have a genie on your show. Sesame gives you 3 wishes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that they're going to be venturing from equality into like equity and like talking about how amazing black people are and stuff like that, and because that seems like where everybody's being pushed to go. I mean, I hope Sesame Street doesn't go there, but because they've done this push of adding these new Muppets, these new like I don't know if they're like black or half black or Latino.
Where's mom? Is it like single dad? I thought it should be like single mom.
It's so true to life, isn't it? They've got a single black dad.
I'm not gonna comment on that.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I actually hate doing this. I hate being on the side where I have to point out reality, because reality is kind of ugly. Nobody really likes reality. Nobody really likes to accept certain things about history, right? Like everybody wants to say white people are bad and that's why black people are poor, disproportionately poor. But nobody wants to point out that white people did a lot of good things historically. And nobody likes to point out that for thousands of years, black people basically in Africa lived a Paleolithic lifestyle. They lived like the Paleolithic Europeans thousands of years before, like 10,000 years before. That's how Europeans lived. And so when Europeans met up with Africans, they were way behind. And actually, I've been doing a lot of research on Germans because I'm German. And so I got kind of caught up doing some research on ancient Germany, like during the Roman era. And Germans were essentially barbarians during the Roman era. Obviously, they were a little bit more technologically similar to the Romans than Black Africans were when Europeans first met them. But they were still considered to be much more primitive than the Romans at the time. And so they had a disadvantage. They had quite a lot of years of disadvantage. So this is like in about the year of Christ, right? Like the year 1, right? Like way back then. That's when these things were being written about these Germanic tribes. And so, they were a lot closer. They were a lot more technologically advanced. They were farmers and stuff like that. They lived an agrarian lifestyle, but they were tribal. And they were certainly much more primitive technologically than the Romans, and they wouldn't let the Romans in. Like the Romans conquered like everywhere, but the Germans fought back, and they wouldn't. The Romans were kind of scared of them, and they wouldn't go into Germany. So there was this area called I think it was called Germania or Germania, I think, and they wouldn't go into to Germany. They wouldn't go in there. They were scared of the Germans, and it was like one of the few places that the Romans were like refused to take over. But the problem was that because the Germans were so independent-minded and wouldn't let the Romans in, I think they probably suffered a little bit in terms of their inability to progress technologically, right? They fought sort of like the Scots, right? They just cared about their freedom, so they wouldn't progress with the rest of the Roman world. Which is fine, you can make that decision, and they did, and that's probably the right decision for them. Because look at them now, Germany, so great. But I have that in my ancestry too. I have people who were farther behind than the rest of civilization, right? They were lagging behind the rest of civilization. But the problem with Black Africans, Sub-Saharan Africans, is that they were like 10,000 years behind. I mean, it was a long time behind. It wasn't like a couple of centuries behind. It was like millennia behind. And so when you take people who don't, who aren't accustomed to the civilization and put them in this much more advanced civilization, it might take them several generations to catch up. It's not merely that they're being oppressed because of the racism. Certainly, the oppressive racism had some kind of consequence to that. But see, the point I'm trying to make here is that history is nuanced. Reality is nuanced. There are bad white people, but there are good white people. There are good black people, but there are also bad black people. So you need to look at things in a nuanced way, but the left doesn't want us to look at things like that. They want us to look at everything like, white people bad, black people good, and then it forces somebody like me to talk about all this crap because nobody else is willing to talk about it. And then, I'm kind of fortunate in a way. I almost never have anybody accusing me of being racist or anything like that. I don't really remember anybody ever calling me that. I get a few comments here and there, but it seems like they're just doing it because that's the thing to do. You're right. I don't think they really actually believe that. But it's frustrating because I don't want to say things that sound ugly. I don't want to have to be the one that's expressing these ideas because I like black people. I do. I hate to say that actually because I don't want to specifically like black people. I just want to like decent people. But the point I'm trying to make is that I like decent people who happen to be black. I like decent people who happen to be Asian. I like decent people who happen to be Mexican, Hispanic, whatever. I don't really care what your race is. I care about if you're a decent person. And so it would be nice just to say nice things about black people. It would be nice just to say nice things about Asians, about Hispanics, and never say anything bad about any other group. But we live in a society now where these obvious realities have to be stated confidently and affirmatively because there are so many people that are pretending that the reality is something that it's not. And it's not fun for me. I don't like doing that. I really don't like doing that. I mean, it's fun for me to conceive of the ideas because I like thinking through things and experimenting with different, ideas and thoughts and philosophies and stuff like that. But I really don't like talking. I mean, it's ugly stuff to talk about. It's not fun. I would rather just not talk about the racial stuff. Why couldn't we get past this like we did like in the 90s, like in the 80s and the 90s? Why can't we be past it again? We have to go back to this equity crap because the left wants to be racist. Anyway, you say something.
Well, I just got this information from my secret source.
Oh, what information?
Kevin Clash, who is American puppeteer for Elmo character.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he quit.
Oh, he quit?
Because of the sex scandal.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. It was in 2012.
I shouldn't laugh. That's messed up.
It was in 2012.
Yeah.
A lawsuit filed in federal court in New York charged Clash with sexual abuse of a second youth.
Who?
Second youth.
No. Who are you talking about?
Kevin Clash.
Oh, so he's like a pedophile. Yep. Oh man, that is messed up.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, the behind the scenes of these children's shows isn't always as lovely as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was mentioning at the top of the show how I worked for the production company that produced Reading Rainbow.
There's always such messed up things about this children's show, like Disney, Nickelodeon. I always hated work for those productions who worked through because they're always so horrible.
Yeah, the crews are so terrible.
Every time when I work for productions who is like Disney, Nickelodeon, it's like
they're very strict. They've got a lot of regulations, and they're not very respectful of people. They tend to be the least. When I've worked at Disney,
when I worked,
it depends. Like it depends on the project.
When I worked on Nickelodeon, first of all, they paying lower.
They pay lower. Yeah.
They pay lower.
Yeah.
Secondly, that person, whoever was it, AD. He was saying, you are not allowed to say word God or Disney. Every freaking day he was saying that. You're not allowed to say God or Disney.
He said you're not allowed to say the word God and you're not allowed to say the word Disney.
Yeah, it was Nickelodeon. I don't know. Do you understand?
That's like a PA or?
Yeah, it's like AD, second AD, PA, I don't know.
It's weird.
That's so weird. Unpleasant people
very
work there.
Weird.
They work with children.
Yeah.
They're so unpleasant.
Yeah. A lot of the people that work on children's shows that I've met, some of them are great. I mean, some of the people I've worked with are people that I love. They were amazing people. But yeah, like the executives that I worked for in New York that did the show Reading Rainbow, pure evil. I mean, these people had like hearts of coal. And they were cruel human beings. And nobody would stand up to them in the place because they knew they'd get fired. So I stood up to them. And I got fired. It's the best firing I ever had. I didn't care. I was just like, screw you, women. I'll get some job somewhere
Shall
else.
we read the super chats that
Yes.
we had?
We are done with the news. Time
now I
for
have
your
a new
comments and
tactic.
questions. Whatever you want.
Now I have a new tactic. Every time I see super chat, I'm taking picture of it
Perfect.
so I won't miss it.
Wasn't that our plan in the beginning, though?
I think so.
Yeah. What happened? Why didn't you do that? All right. Would you like to read the super chat, Johnny?
Yeah, Disney is a competition. Yeah, I understand. That's why they were like, you're not allowed to say Disney here. Still.
Yeah, still, it's
Messed
weird.
up.
It's weird.
Okay, first super chat from Daniel Patriot. Daniel was.
Yes.
The recent attacks on patriots flying flags behind their trucks is scary. I fly and don't treat me. I fly and don't treat on me and Blue Lives Matter flags daily behind my Ram 1500.
Nice.
I won't stop doing this. I love America.
Nice.
Us.
Nice. What was the first part of
US,
that? What is the
America,
first
US.
part of that he said?
The recent attacks on patriots flying flags behind their trucks is scary.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Valeria wanted to get... What was the bumper sticker you wanted to get?
I wanted to get just an American flag bumper.
Yeah, she goes, I don't care anymore. I'm getting an American flag bumper sticker and I'm putting it on my car. And I said, don't you dare. Toxic Masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.